How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me, as usual, is Leonard. This is a show about wrestling, and we are going to be giving you another edition of Stupid Questions, where one of us asks the other person a random wrestling question, and we have to answer right off the top of our head. The person fielding the question does not know what's coming. They do not have time to prepare, and that's what makes it fun. So this time, Leonard will be asking me the question. Leonard, take it.
They are things like rock and roll fantasy camps and baseball fantasy camps. So if there was something, say, like a wrestling fantasy camp where you could go for 5 days and learn some of the business and work with somebody, who would you want to work with? Who would you want to try to train and learn from? And this kind of comes off the last question I asked you, which was what move would you want to take from what wrestler? So it kind of ties into that. But who would you want to maybe trust to train you in a fancy camp type situation?
That's interesting. So I suppose, like, maybe I'm putting too much thought into it, but I want to pick somebody that I like. Their move set would kind of look like a move set I would have if I were a wrestler. And I'd also want to pick somebody that is a hard worker, but not like a merciless taskmaster. So, I think of people like FTR, or, maybe AJ Styles. I want to say Kurt Angle, but like he is an Olympian. So I imagine he might work me to the point where I pass out.
Yeah.
Like those are the people that kind of come to mind. Now, if I'm thinking more old school, I suppose like an easy one would be like a Kurt Hennig. He's obviously no longer with us, but in a fantasy world, I think that he would be a good person to learn from, and he'd be fun to learn from too, as he's a notorious ribber. So yeah, those are the ones that come to my head.
A lot of what you said actually fits my pick, but that wasn't why I went with them, is because I was thinking, well, who are professional trainers?
I thought about that.
And I'm here in Ohio, as a lot of our listeners know, and Al Snow used to run a training school in Lima with D'Lo Brown. And what you said, moveset you could do, guys who, wouldn't probably work you to the bone, that would want to have fun, that have training experience. So those were actually the first two guys I thought of, believe it or not. And if you want to go old school, I would want to go with someone like, say, Dominic DeNucci, who trained Shane Douglas and Mick Foley. So, like Killer Kowalski, who trained Perry Saturn and Triple H, among others.
Right.
Dory Funk Jr. had, a very popular wrestling school. So those are kind of guys I thought of. Then I thought of something else. A different track would be, I wouldn't necessarily want to learn the in-ring stuff, but the out-of-ring stuff, like to be an announcer, a commentator, a manager.
Oh, yeah.
How to book, how to run a TV show. And the names I thought of there were Jim Cornette and Bruce Pritchard, who have done all those
things. Pritchards, and one could teach you how to wrestle, and the other person could teach you.
Right. A fantasy camp with Tom and Bruce would be the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
And I actually did think of Tom Pritchard at one point, and I forgot to mention him. And then a dark horse I'll give you on that front would be Scott D'Amore, who's running Impact right now. And actually, if Impact wanted to make some extra money, they could probably say, hey, come in, and we'll let you run Impact for a week.
Yeah, and you mentioned fantasy camp. I think it's called, I think EC3 is doing something similar to that with his Control Your Narrative.
Yeah.
They don't do shows, but I think they're doing some sort of camp. And
I have seen on some indie shows when they bring in somebody that they'll do like a training session earlier in the day, but it's usually for trained wrestlers. It's like you have to have so much experience to come to the little training session that they have. Similar that I remember from a show, I think this was up in Cleveland and we weren't able to go, but Stevie Richards was going to do DDP yoga with you.
Oh, wow.
Now, why Stevie Richards, I don't know, but
I could tell you some people that I wouldn't want to learn from, and it might surprise you. Like being an AEW fan, I don't know that I'd want to learn from Jon Moxley. because I feel like he'd want to blade right away.
Yeah, he would teach you how to bleed.
Or like the Young Bucks, because as much as I love watching their matches, I feel like they'd kick my head right off just because they could.
Yeah. Well, speaking AEW, what about the Blackpool Combat Club guys?
Well, John Moxley is one of those.
Well, other than him, I was thinking Danielson and Regal and
Bryan Danielson
with them too, right?
Claudio Castagnoli.
Yeah.
Either of those guys, honestly, I feel like would be very good trainers. Danielson obviously worked under Shawn Michaels. I forget who Claudio Castagnoli worked under, but I feel like both of those guys are guys that have been everywhere, right? So like they have seen everything just about, and I feel like they would be a well-rounded trainers. If you wanted to go that route.
Yeah.
Moxley.
When you said not, and remember I said people who have training experience, I would not want Bill DeMott.
So yeah, he came to mind right away, but I was like, when he did come to my head, I was like, yeah, I don't know that I want to learn from him.
No.
Or what was the WCW guy? Sarge? Is that what they call him?
Oh yeah, Buddy Lee Parker, who did all the power plant guys, and most of them sucked.
Yeah, that's true. You could have been the next Goldberg though.
Yeah, or Sean Stasiak.
Yeah.
Chuck Palumbo.
Who else has a school? The Dudley Boys have schools. Booker T has one.
Booker T would be cool, I think. And I think Stevie Ray helps him with that. A lot of guys have schools and academies. We're probably missing a lot who do. I think I told you how I met Dan Severin. And Severin, like you said, kind of with Angle, he would probably just run you ragged. Because when I asked Severin about doing a podcast, he said, well, I charge a lot, or I like to do something where I can come in and work with like a wrestling school or a wrestling team or a mixed martial arts gym or something like that. And then I'll do something where I'll work with you and you can get video of you basically getting your ass kicked by Dan Severin. So
yeah, see, he's like a Stu Hart.
Yeah, he would be
a really nice guy, really unassuming voice, probably very gentle, but like get him in the octagon or the ring or the mat, whatever, and no.
He would. Yeah, he was totally nice, very soft spoken. I was surprised, but the more I thought about, I think he would just purposely, stretch you.
Yeah.
Another guy I thought of, because I know he's done some work up in Canada with guys, is Ronnie Garvin, because I'm a huge Ronnie Garvin fan.
Yeah.
And Mark and Garvin, I think, is very underrated in the ring, and I know he trained very old school, and he can stretch and he can shoot if he needs to.
That's a good deep cut right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting question to think about. It really is, because some of the guys we mentioned aren't trainers. Some of them are. Ideally, we'd probably want to go with somebody who is a trainer. I know the Samoan.
Yeah, not everyone who can teach. I mean, you see so many former great football players and basketball players and baseball players who then go on to coach or manage and are awful. They know how to do it themselves, but they can't tell someone else how to do it.
Right. Yeah, and I know the Samoans had a school in PA at one point. But anyway, let us know what you think. Who would you want to train with? Who would you not want to train with? And let us know in the comments. And check out our other episodes, Segment Surgery, Random Match Reviews. We're available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please hit the like button on our YouTube videos. Subscribe to our content. Give us a 5-star review if you think you've earned it. If we have earned it. And for Leonard, my name is Chad, and we will see you next time.